Hi, so this is in this lecture we will discuss about loops and selection statements. So the lecture is from Fundamentals of Python, First Programs by Kenneth Lambert. There's an ebook version of this one available in the Metis bookshelf. Okay, so first let's do some definitions. So we have what is the loop, or in Python it's the for loop. So we have repetition statements, or the loops. They repeat an action. So each repetition of action is known as a pass or iteration. So we have two types of loops. So those that repeat an action a predefined number of times, which is known as definite iteration. So those that perform an action until the program determines it needs to stop is known as the indefinite iteration. And most of the time, the indefinite iterations are the ones that you should watch out for, because there might be some you might create infinite loops. Now, how do you type for loops in Python? So we have basically the basic type of your for loop is that for and then a variable. Mostly this is the count of the iteration. So in the range of a certain integer expression, which tells you how many times you need to repeat that your variable, which is your loop, and then the statement. For example, for each pass, this is the variable for that loop. So in the range of 4, so that means it will repeat the loop 4 times. So it will print it's alive and then end in, well, blank. So basically when you print this one or run this one, so it's alive, it's alive, it's alive. So this is the output. So you have 4 because it will loop 4 times. So the first line of code here, the for, this one is the loop header, and then the rest of the statement is the loop body. Now take note that the loop body, for example, in this case, the print, it's alive, is indented. So let's look at another loop. So for example, we define several variables, number, exponent, and product. So for each pass in the range of your exponent, basically you will run this loop 3 times. So each pass, so this is basically the number of times. So the product is changing values for each iteration of this each pass loop, and it will print the product at the end of each iteration. So for example, the first iteration, it's your number is 2 and the product is 1. So the product is 1 times 2, that's 2. So the new value for the product is now 2. In the second iteration, it will be the product, which is the new value 2 times the number 2. So it will give us a new value for the product 4. So you have 4. And then the third and the last iteration, because again, we define the number of iterations here as 3 by this variable exponent. And so what the previous, from the previous iteration, the value of product is 4 times the number, which is 2. So 4 times 2, that's 8. And that is your 8. Okay, so basically this is your iteration loop. So if your exponent is 0, the loop body will not execute and the value of the product would remain as 1. Now we have another example of the loop that count through a range of numbers. So here you can see here the variable is count. So basically you will know for each iteration of the count. So for example, for the first iteration you have product, the initial value of product as 1 times count, how many iterations. So since it's the first, you have 1 plus 1. So you have 2 times the value of the product, which is 1. So the new value of the product is now 2. That's for the first pass. In the second pass, so you will have the new value of product, which is 2. And then the count now is 2, since this is the second pass, plus 1. So you will have 3 for this one times the old value of the product, which is 2. So that is 6. So you will repeat that 2 more times, and you will give you a value of 24. Now, how about we have here a range, or rather we define a lower bound for our values. So for example, for the count in the range of 1 to 5, so the lower bound is 1 and the upper bound is 5. So in here, basically it's just similar to just repeating the loop 4 times, but instead of having, but since we specified it as 5, basically that is one of the logic things or peculiarities here in Python. So when we say the upper bound is 5, it will not actually reach the value or 5, but it before it goes to the 5th iteration. So that just means like that. So it just repeats the loop 4 times, not 5. So that's one of the logic peculiarities for your Python. So in this case, for example, here the upper bound is defined as 10. So you want to repeat this one 10 times. So you need to add plus 1 in your basically 10 plus 1. So that ensures that this is actually repeating 10 times, because otherwise it will repeat just 9 times. Even if you specify it at number 10, it will just repeat 9 times. And then these are some augmented assignment symbols. So this is basically for loops. Remember, in assigning values in Python, the Python reads first the expression on the right side of your equal sign, and then reads the one on the left. So that means a is equal to a plus 3. That means the old value of a increases by 3 will be the new value of a. So instead of just writing this pretty longish expression, so we can just use augmented expressions. So basically, instead of just writing a is equal to a plus 3, you'll just say a plus equals 3. So you have that. And then the same goes for counting down. A minus equal 3. Or multiplication. A multiply equal 3. This is for division. And this is for the remainder. And then this is s plus equals to there. So basically, these are just some augmented operations. Now, again, this is the thing that I'm talking about a while ago. So, for example, you want to count it 1 to 4. So, you just write for the count in range 1 to 4 and then print out the count. And then you will see, oh, why does it only loop 3 times? Because basically, in Python, that's just one of its peculiarities. It will not reach number 4. It will just stop before reaching 4. So 4 is the upper boundary, but it will not reach that upper boundary. So keep that in mind. So if you want this one to count 4 times, you can just write 1 comma 4 plus 1. So that's to ensure that you basically have a count 1 to 4. So this is another way. So what if you want the output of the list, or rather the output of your loop, to become a list? So for example here, list it in the range of 4, or rather you define list in a range of 4. So basically you this is not exactly a for loop, but it's another iteration. So you have here listing a value of 4. Now, another thing here is the count here started from 0, 1, and then since you specify 4 elements in that list, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. So this is another way. So you want to define the lower and the upper boundary of the list, and the peculiarity again is shown here. So you, instead of giving you a list of range 1 to 5, it falls short of your upper boundary, which is 4. So it just returns 1 to 4. So strings are also a sequence of characters. So values in a sequence can be visited with a for loop. So for example, for a variable in a sequence, do something to this variable. So for example, for the character in Heider, basically this is your string. So print each character and put a space in each at the end. So you can see here that for each character of your Heider string, there is a space, including the space in Heider. So not only numerical values, but can also read strings, alphabetical strings in loops. So we have a range. Range expects a third argument that allows you to specify a step values. Actually, I usually use that, but I use NP range. Well, I can do that in Python, but I just want to use NumPy, the NumPy package, as an additional one because I don't know. I think, well, NP allows me to use a large amount of numbers. Okay, so let's go back to this example. Here is my range. Basically, it's an array. That's why it's an A range. So you have your starting from 0, ending in 500.2. Because again, remember the upper limit. I want it to end at exactly 500. But since if I specified 500 as my last, it should be the last element. So I need to input the one next to the last or succeeding the last element that I wanted in my list. And this is the third one, which specifies the third argument that specifies number of intervals. So that is 0.2. So you can also see that my upper boundary is 500.2. That means that is the final element that I wanted in my list, plus the next element, plus 0.2, which is the next element. So that gives me a value of 0 to actually 500, if you notice my graph here. So basically that is your list. Then I specified here again the length of my list for the range of n. So that's basically the for loops and the list usage in Python. So going back to the presentation. So about making loops that count down. So for count in the range of, so we specified here a list from 10 to 0. Basically here is 0 is the end or the upper, quote unquote, upper boundary. And -1 as the interval. So 10, -1, then another -1, -1. So we will just print the count. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So that is your list. So the same goes for this one. It's like your list of values for the 4 and the list. So then another thing that we will discuss is about selections. Selection statements allow a computer to make choices based on your conditions. So basically the computer will decide whether proceed or do another thing. So we have a Boolean data type consisting of two values, which is the true and false. So basically this is the standard true or false statements. So if we have here, how do we say that a statement is false? So that is denoted by an exclamation point and an equal mark. So for example, for not equal to, basically we just call it not equal to 4. So these are some comparison operators, the Boolean operators and their meanings. So this is equals. So it's different from a single equal sign. So take note, because the single equal sign changes the value of the left variable to the one on the right variable. But if you have a 2 equal sign, that means you are comparing the left and the right side. And then we already have the exclamation point equals. That means not equals. And then less than, greater than, less than or equal, greater than or equal are given by these comparison operators. So we have if-else statements, which are also known as two-way selection statements. So they're often used to check inputs for errors. So for example, we have if the area is greater than 0. So the radius is, this is your equation. So if the area is greater than 0, you will print the radius of your equation. And then otherwise, if this is 0, it will tell you, or it will output or give the output of error. The area must be a positive number. So basically the syntax for the if else, if you have the if, and then specify your condition, the Boolean condition in this case, the area must be greater than 0, and then the sequence statements, sequence of the statements in the if, and then else at the end. So what will happen if this condition is not true? So this is another condition. So basically you can look at it here, which is the flow chart. So this is your the if statement. If this is true, it will execute sequence statements 1, and if this is false, it will execute statements 2, and then go back. So the simplest form of the if state of the selection is the if statement. So in here it doesn't specify an else. It has no else. So if the condition is not met, it will not do the sequence of statements. Because in the if else statements in the previous one, if something is done, if the condition is met, it will do these steps, or the additionally defined steps. But if it doesn't meet the condition, it will do another specified series steps. But in the simple if statement, you have here a sequence of statements or steps that will happen only if the condition is met. But if the condition is not met, it will just skip over your the statements or the sequence of statements in the if condition. So here the false, if the condition is not met, it will just skip it over. Okay, so that's the if statement. So basically you can unlike C++, if I remember correctly, you need to always define an else. In your Python, you can have an if. The if statement will just skip that condition of the if steps, and the if else you have do this if this is met, do another thing if it is not met. So how about multi-way statements? So a program can be faced with testing condition that entails more than two alternative courses of action. So they can be described in code by a multi-way selection statements. So for example, this is actually how your grades in Blackboard or the final grades in Blackboard operates. So basically, we defined as a range of grades. It will be equivalent to, well, 1.00, 1.25, 1.75, 3.00, or 5.00, something like that. So this is basically, if this condition is met, and then if this condition is not, another condition. So this is the ELIF. Basically, for example, you have the input, the numeric grade. You will input it in the variable number. So if the number is greater than 89, the grade is A. Otherwise, basically the ELIF is just a conjunction of else and if. Else, if the number is 79, the grade will be B. ELIF, the number is greater than 69, the letter grade will be C. And then finally the else, which is if you still do not meet the if you still did not meet the passing grade, you will get a fail. So F. So any other values aside from those specified will give is this statement, which is a grade of F. So basically that's the ELIF statements. So here is the schematic of your if and the ELIF. So you have multiple conditions. So this is the first condition. If this is true, it will do this. But otherwise, let's check if it meets the second condition. If it meets, it will do this. Otherwise, it will go to the next conditions until you go to the last condition, and then it will execute another the else. Basically, the statements in the else, and then proceed to the end of the or the next part of the code. So that is the if, ELIF, and the if else. So how about logical operators and compound Boolean expressions? So often a course of action must be taken if either of the two conditions is true. So for example, you have a number. If your number is greater than 100, since for example, this is a percentage of the grade, you cannot have a percentage grade of more than 100%. So if the number that was input is greater than 100, so it will give you the statement that the grade must be between 100 and 0. So otherwise, if the number is less than 0, so it will basically, if you give a negative grade, so again, it will give you the error. So that is your statements. So another way to do that is, instead of doing two or rather another ELIF statement here, we'll just state that because we have two conditions, the grade must be between 100 and 0. So instead of having this longish code here, we can just say that the two conditions of the if here can be just inputted in a single statement, whereas greater than 100 or number less than 0. So you have the OR. So here is basically the value here. For example, a condition of A and B. If A is true and B is true, we have the value N. So that means it will give us a value of true, because both are true. If only A is true and B is false, so that means that it will have the end statement specifies that both A and B must be true. So if one of them is not true, so it will give a false, basically the output is a false, decision. So, okay. And then how about the OR? For the OR, you will have either one of the two. So if B is false, as long as one of the conditions is true, it will still give an output of true. So basically that is the OR. And then we have a NOT. NOT, when we say not the condition A, so basically it's the opposite of the condition A. So if A is true, not A means it is false. If A is false, not A means it is true. So those are your true, and, or, and the not expressions for Boolean operations. So this is your operators. So basically, if you have this operator, so they basically have precedence. The not has higher precedence than the and the or. So if you put all of them in a single expression, the not expression signifies higher. It's like PEMDAS. You do the exponents first, then the multiplication, divisions, and then additions and subtractions. In this case, you evaluate the nots first before the and or. And then some logical operators and compound Boolean expression. So you have double asterisk for exponents, arithmetic negation, a negative sign. So you have multiplication, division, and the remainder, addition and subtraction for the comparison values. And then for the logical negation, conjunction and disjunction. And these are our assignments. So these are the operators, the logical operators used in Python. So short circuit evaluation. So for example, if in the A and B statement. So if A is false, then so is the expression. So they won't evaluate B. If you have A or B, so if A is true and so is the expression, so there is no need to evaluate B. So what does it mean? Because remember, if the OR statement specifies that either A or B is true, so if A is already true, so that means the whole statement is already considered as true. In this case, in the A and B, so that specifies that both A and B must be true. So if A is already considered false, then the whole statement becomes false. So that's a short circuit evaluation. So it actually helps us in basically shortening the computation time, because it will just skip the next statement if already the condition is met. Okay, so tips in testing selection statements. So make sure that all possible branches or alternatives in a selection statement are exercised. After testing all of the actions, examine all of the conditions. Test conditions that contain compound Boolean expressions using data that produce all of the possible combinations of values and operands. The while loop, now let's have a different loop. So we have the while loop. It can be used to describe a conditional iteration. So for example, a program's input loop that accepts values until users enters a sentinel that terminates the input. So the while loop, so it's a conditional iteration that requires that condition be tested within loop to determine if it should condition. So it's called continual condition. So for example, while your condition is met, so you will have a sequence of statements. So improper use of this while loop may lead to infinite loops. So the while loop is also called entry control loop. So the condition is tested at the top of the loop. So the statements within the loop can execute 0 or more times. So this is your while loop. So basically it will loop as long as your statement is true. So for example, this is your condition. If the condition is met, it will iterate. It will basically, that's why there's an issue of infinite loops here, because as long as that statement remains true, so it will execute the loop. But once the condition is no longer true or it becomes false, it will exit the loop. So for example, here is this, we defined a float 0.0 as the sum. So you input the data. So while the data that basically you are inputting data, your loop is iterating. But once you input a blank, so that is defined by basically an empty apostrophe here. When you enter a blank, the loop exits. So data is the loop control variable. So as long as your basically this condition is met, the loop will iterate. The statements will iterate. So let's look at this sample while loop that we have. So I'll switch. Okay, so this is the sample while loop. So basically it's just the one example. By the way, it wasn't seen in the presentation, but while inside the while loop, the statements under the while is also indented. So let's run this one. So enter a number. So if I enter a number, let's say 1. So it will get my number, but it will still allow me to input another number. So it is asking me to input another number. So let's just input another number. So it will still ask me, it will continuously ask me to input numbers unless I input a blank. So if I input a blank, so basically you have it will quit the loop. Okay, and then the sum here is just basically the condition of your number. So it's increasing with my number. Okay, so anyway, that is the while loop. So unless you do this, the condition, the loop will iterate. So that's the while loop. So you must, it's a bit challenging in the logic of things. So the condition that you define in the while loop is the exit condition of the loop. So as long as you do not input that condition, the while loop will iterate over and over. So for account controlled loop, so you have while the count is does not range, basically this is 1 million. So it will continuously count until you reach less than or equal to 1 million. So it's a bit difficult because the while specifies the false, basically the false condition of the loop. So it's a bit complicated to write correctly. So it's possible to simplify structure and improve its readability. So within this body, the input datum is received and it is then tested for the loop's terminal condition, and the break statement will cause an exit from the loop. So another example of the while true loop. So this modifies the input selection of the grade conversion program to continue taking input numbers from the user until entering an acceptable value. So while the condition is true, which is a number of greater than 0 and less than 0, so you will basically it will iterate. So this one is a bit a challenge again to write, because it runs contrary to what you would logically expect in writing your program. So this program should be that as long as you enter a number within the range, it will not give you the output of the error. Grade must be between 100 and 0 as long as you fulfill this condition. So that's basically just a while loop. So while the variable done is a false, you write, well, not done, that is basically your condition for the while. So while loops is a bit of challenge basically to do. Okay, now let's move on to loop logic, errors, and testing. So errors to rule out during testing the while loop. So incorrectly initialize loop control variable, failure to update this variable correctly within the loop, failure to test it correctly in continuation conditions. To halt a loop that appears to hang during testing, we can just type Control C. Basically, when you have infinite loops. So if a loop must run at least once, use while true loop with delayed examination of the termination conditions. So this ensures a break statement to be reached eventually. So basically that's it for the sequences, loops, and basically logic conditions. Thank you for staying until the end.